G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm looking at the topic of whether women can wear pants. So let's get right into it. Now, the passage that people often like to go to support their idea that women cannot wear pants is found in Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 5, where it says, "A woman shall not wear man's clothing, nor shall a man put on a woman's clothing. For whoever does these things is an abomination to Yahweh your God." Now, when people use this passage to support their idea that women cannot wear pants, all they're really showing is their ignorance and their lack of study and understanding of this passage. Now, it's not talking about that women cannot wear pants. In fact, no one in Bible times actually wore pants except for the Babylonians and the Persians, which I will get to a little later on in this video. This particular passage is talking about cross-dressers, it's talking about transvestites and homosexuals. So let's take a look at what some of the Bible commentaries have to say on this topic. The first one is the Believer's Bible Commentary, and it says, "Men were not to wear women's clothing or vice versa. God hates transvestism." The New International Commentary says, "First, transvestism tends to be associated with certain forms of homosexuality. Second, in the ancient world, it is probable that transvestite practices were associated with the cults of certain deities." The Bible Background Commentary says, "It may be this association with other religions that made transvestism an abomination in Deuteronomy, but the issue may also be the blurring of gender distinctions." Now, in the Law of Moses, the word abomination is often associated with homosexuality and idolatry. If we go to Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22, it reads, "And you shall not lie with a male as one lies with a female. It is an abomination." So there are many sexual sins listed in this passage, but homosexual behavior is uniquely listed as an abomination to the Lord. Now, when you look at the Bible carefully, you'll notice that men did not actually wear pants in ancient Israel. If we take a look at Exodus 28 verses 42 to 43, it reads, "You shall make for them linen undergarments to cover their bare flesh. They shall reach from the loins even to the thighs. They shall be on Aaron and on his sons when they come into the tent of meeting or when they approach the altar to minister in the holy place, so that they do not incur guilt and die. It shall be a perpetual statute to him and to his seed after him." These passages tell us that the priests had to cover their nakedness in the tent of meeting and at the altar, or they would incur guilt and die. Now, if these priests were already wearing trousers, pants, then why would they need to be instructed to cover their nakedness as they approach the altar? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, the only way that we can understand this passage is to basically understand that these priests and the Israelites in general were actually wearing robes and not trousers. So that's why they had to sew linen garments to cover their nakedness. In Judges 3 verse 24, it says, "Now he went out, and his servants came in and looked, and behold, the doors of the roof chamber were locked. And they said, He is surely relieving himself in the cool room." And in 1 Samuel 24 verse 3, it reads, "And he came to the sheep's fold on the way, where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself." So this idea of relieving himself in the Hebrew actually is literally translated as he went in to cover his feet. And this is also how the King James Version translates it as well. And basically, when a man had to squat down to relieve himself, his robe would cover his feet, his ankles, and basically it would give him privacy as he relieved his bowels. So that's what this passage is talking about, and that's the meaning behind it. Now, John Gill says, "As the Eastern people wore long and loose garments, when they sat down on such an occasion, their feet were covered with them. or they purposely gathered them about their feet to cover them, and so this became a modest expression for this work of nature. Now, this expression only makes sense if men actually wore robes and tunics, and if they wore pants, obviously then this expression would lose its meaning. Now I want to look at some objections that some people like to use. Now, the first one is in Daniel chapter 3 verse 21, and it reads, "Then these men were tied up in their trousers, their coats, their caps, and their other clothes, and were cast into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire." Some people use this passage to argue that this is evidence that Israelite men wore pants, but it's actually worth noting that this is actually in Babylon, where Daniel and his friends were exiled, and it was the Babylonians and the Persians that actually invented the pants, or the idea of trousers, for horse riding. Now, over time, this form of clothing became popular, but even in much of European history, men actually continued to wear robes and tunics. So let's take a look at some of the differences between women's pants and men's pants and just see for ourselves. Now, women's pants, depending on the type of material, it can often be sometimes thinner. They can also be flowy, they can be stretchier to shape the body or to shape the hips or around the butt area a bit more, whereas men's trousers tend to be more straight leg or straight cut. It doesn't tend to shape the butt area like the women's pants do. I'll put a picture here perhaps so you can see as well. Women's pants tend to be more tight-fitting to the legs, depending on the style. The waist of the women's pants as well often tend to be smaller than the hips compared to men's. Men's are often less stretchy, and they don't often obviously have that stretch to them because there's no need to. Men's pants as well, they tend to be a bit sturdier, stronger type of material, and like I mentioned as well, tend to be straight cut through the leg and the butt area. It's not shaped like a women's pants. So, this idea that women cannot wear pants is wrong. I definitely believe that women can wear pants, and there's nothing wrong with women wearing pants, but obviously if you're someone who just prefers not to wear pants, then that's okay as well. But to have this idea and put it onto other people saying women cannot wear pants is wrong.